بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا تجد له وليا مرشدا. This is part 4. We've been away for some while. I went to Lebanon and did my defense for my PhD. Alhamdulillah, it went very, very well, farther than I expected. I actually got the highest grade that you can actually get. So, alhamdulillah. So today we're going to be talking about, inshallah, today's going to be the last class. We're going to be talking about taraweeh, we're going to be talking about i'tikaf, and we're going to be answering some of the questions that we didn't answer throughout the time. When we speak about manners of fasting in Ramadan, there are certain manners, of course, for Ramadan, and most importantly is the manners that we actually have throughout the day of Ramadan. Because we want to remember that Ramadan is about a spiritual training throughout the month. Yet, when we say a spiritual training for the Muslim, if the person does not practice these behaviors and these manners, that does not nullify his fast. This is really important to say. This would be there's fara'id, there are the pillars of a siyam, the arkan of siyam, and the pillars of fasting would be that the person is Muslim, the person does not eat or drink or have sexual relations from dawn until sunset. If these are met, all the other things make up as the side things which do not necessarily nullify the fast. So when we have the arkan, the pillars, those act as the main things. So if a Muslim, if they're not eating, drinking, or doing sexual relations that is intercourse, not foreplay, then their fast is right. When we say notice that we didn't mention the age of puberty, because the age of puberty, that would mean that they would be obligated to fast, not necessarily that their fast is not considered unless they reach the age of puberty. All right? Okay. All right? Are you with me here?
No.
Okay. So let's say a non-Muslim fasted.
Yeah.
All right? That's not fast.
No, it's not.
All right? Thanks for the support. But any type, إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى, that the intention of it is number one to be for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the number one thing. So in order for the fast to be accepted, if the person is Muslim, it has to be for the sake of Allah. If the person is not Muslim, well, they don't have the intention for the sake of Allah anyway.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have the intention for the sake of Allah anyway. So therefore, for it to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it would have to be, 1, sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, 2, that there's no way that the person can be sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unless they actually believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
The point of puberty that you mean, I think they don't understand.
The age of puberty. For the age of puberty, if the person did not reach the age of puberty, but they fasted, will they get rewarded? They'll get rewarded for it.
Got it.
But they won't be sinned for not fasting. But it's very important to do the training, especially as a parent. It's very important to do the training in order to get them ready by the age of puberty.
Yes.
It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work for you to actually get to the level, once you reach the age of puberty, to be able to fulfill the different requirements that are required from you as a Muslim. Now, when we say the manners of fasting, definitely abstaining from any kind of haram actions or illicit things, this would be part of it. And some other manners that relate to the ritual itself is fasting and eating suhoor. Suhoor, the word suhoor means at like the pre-dawn time. The word suhoor. But it became common that it's used for the meal. Right? Fasting, what would fulfill the sunnah of eating the pre-dawn meal. Fasting, the time for the pre-dawn meal. And when we talk about suhoor, suhoor actually helps it's supposed to be something to help the Muslim in order to continue their day. Drinking, for example, water or eating dates is the sunnah generally before eating, whether breakfast or whether doing suhoor. Now, then it comes to another question, which is, what if the person needed to take a medication? And this is a very common thing. They needed to take a medication, and here it is, suhoor just started. All right? If 3 minutes passed, but they needed to take that medication. 2 minutes passed, but they needed to take that medication. They only remembered, and unfortunately, we only remember right after it. All right? They can take the medication because it's not like it's not the precise part in where here it is, it's like a dropping needle. It's not like it's a dropping needle because it's a gradual phase that makes it from night to dawn. It's a gradual phase. It's not like it's a dropping needle and that's it. It's a gradual phase. So if the person, اتقوا الله ما استطعتم, have taqwa as much as you can. Because it's a gradual phase, if let's say the person forgot their pill, 5 minutes later, they can actually take it, because remember, it's a gradual phase. It's a gradual phase. Therefore, اتقوا الله ما استطعتم, because it's a gradual phase, it still didn't necessarily mark the total time. Fasting using siwak. And it's a siwak or a toothbrush, that's a very common thing that people ask. Generally, if you are fasting, you can use a toothbrush. You can even use a mouthwash. The Listerine mouthwash, etc. You can use even the mouthwash. It doesn't break your fast, but scholars have different opinions because the Prophet ﷺ actually said and exaggerate or do an excessive mouthwash. That is, when you make your wudu, unless you're fasting. So scholars had different opinions because he said unless you're fasting. Does that mean that if the person does excessive mouthwash and by mistake happens to sip some inside, does that mean their fast is broken or not? Differences of opinions between scholars. We mentioned that last time, that scholars of usul or principles of fiqh, they had differences of opinions on the matter because of the hadith. That in Allah تجاوز لي عن أمتي الخطأ والنسيان وما استكرهوا عليه. That the Prophet ﷺ actually said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had forgiven for 3 things: الخطأ, things that are done by mistake, things that are done by forgetting, and things that were done by force. In other words, the person's intention was not to commit the mistake, but it happened either by mistake. In other words, it did happen either by mistake or by forgetting or by force. Now, is that including every single action, every single worship, or is that excluding certain things? That's where scholars have different opinions on. So, for example, scholars did agree that if the person, let's say, killed somebody by mistake, that they're not held accountable for killing by mistake. How can you kill by mistake? Instead of hitting drive, you hit reverse, and boom, you hit the gas, it took you back, and it hurt the person or killed the person. All right? You hit the gas. You didn't realize you were still new at driving. It killed the person. Did you kill the person? You did kill the person. Did you intend to kill the person? The answer is no. You didn't intend to kill the person. Well, With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to hold you accountable. But towards the family, you are held accountable. To the family, you have to pay the blood money. In case where you did it by mistake, your family must also get involved and help you make the money or collect the money that is needed to pay for the blood money. Your family, your extended family, all the cousins, everybody has to join in order to get the support for the person that did it by mistake. If you did it on purpose, look at the difference. If you did it on purpose, you would be the one responsible for the blood money. For the rest of your life, you owe that family, unless the family forgives you. Now, the part about, I forgot to mention here, the part about, for example, you were brushing your teeth, all right, and then you by mistake swallowed some toothpaste, all right? Differences of opinions. Whether your siyam or your fast is considered or not. All right? Like I said, the differences of opinions between scholars is because of that hadith. Two, when you actually say that because of this hadith, the scholars of usul had different opinions, then you actually have the scholars of fiqh having different opinions, because the scholars of principles of fiqh actually had different opinions from the very beginning. Right? Therefore, it's best not to do excessive mouthwash, just to be on the safe side, or what scholars of fiqh would say, khuruj min al-khilaf. Part of the manners of fasting is reading Quran. The Quran, of course, the Quran is 30 juz', 60 hizb. 30 juz', 60 hizb. So we've got, if you were to read one juz' every day, that would actually mean you'll be finished by the Quran within the whole month. The juz' is approximately 20 pages. 20 pages a day, you'll be finished with the whole Quran. Or you can do it hizb. Hizb would be 2 hizb is 1 juz'.
Okay.
So you could say 1 hizb in the daytime and 1 hizb at night. All right?
16.
Yep, and that would be almost 10 pages. Almost 10 pages. 10 pages at night, 10 pages in the morning, to be able to finish all the Quran. When we also talk about the manners of fasting, it would be very important to remember that training the children for fasting, it depends on the child. It depends on the child. Every single child has his own capacity. But a lot of times, I feel that many parents are very easy with it, because their emotions would be so strong towards their children that they don't want them to go striving for hunger and all that stuff. But it's very important to actually remember that fasting, number 1, is actually healthy. 2, that fasting, don't expect it necessarily that the child cannot. Yes, they can. They can actually fast, and especially from the age 7, they are ready to go for the fast. By age 8, maybe age 7, they can fast half a day and then to do that training, and then by age 8 they should be able to at least do some fasting. That way, by age 10, they should already understand that fasting is a serious matter. Another manner for fasting is making dua. Making the dua, especially before eating. Like before there's an answered dua, before you actually break your fast. before you break your fast, you end it with a dua. And it's very beautiful when you actually look at dua. Part of the manners of dua is that you make a ibadah prior to the dua. You make a worship. Could be salah, could be to pray 2 rak'ahs because I want to make a dua to get married or to get good grades or whatever it is. All right, make a ibadah, make a worship. What it can be salah, can be siyam, can be hajj, can be umrah, can be reading Quran, and then once you feel that closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's when you want to mark and exploit that closeness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by making the dua in order for your dua to be answered. So while you're fasting throughout the day, mark it that now, before you even take a sip of water, make the dua. And I'll tell you, it is actually, I tried it many times, subhanAllah. I mean, lots of dua that I personally did, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered a lot of du'as. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ, who's going to answer the prayers of those that are in need when they make the dua. And al-muttar could be Muslim, it can be not Muslim. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers the dua of a Muslim and a non-Muslim. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers the dua of Muslim and non-Muslim, how is it with answering the dua of a salih person? It's okay to ask the dua from a salih person. So you see that somebody is looking more pious, or you see that they look pious, you can ask them the dua. During the time of the Sahaba, they didn't used to ask others to make dua for them because they regarded it as bad manners. Why? Because they regarded that you understand my rights towards you. You have to make the dua to me without me asking. You understand it? Like, for example, let's say I'm inviting you to my daughter's wedding. Do I have to tell you to bring your gift with you? No. You already know that you're supposed to bring a gift. Me telling you bring a gift is bad manners to ask for you to bring a gift. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's bad manners. Why? Because I'm somehow accusing you that you're being too...
You're not in your fairness.
Exactly. It's the same way that if I'm asking you, make dua for me, that I'm somehow forgetting my rights towards you. Alright? But this was during their time. Is it okay to actually say, hey, make dua for me, I need this? It's not haram. Even the Sahaba, they used to go ask the Prophet, and of course, we don't compare ourselves to the Prophet, but the Sahaba used to go to the Prophet and would ask for dua. Would ask the Prophet for dua. And the Prophet would make wudu and actually raise his head and make the dua. Or even pray 2 rak'ahs and then make a dua. Look at the Prophet like. It could be that the dua may not mean something big to you, but it may mean something big to somebody else. The person, it can be the dua, you and I are married. The dua of marriage is not a big deal to us. But for another sister, the dua for marriage it's like the dua for water. Right? It's like the dua for the person that's thirsty for water. Or it could be the dua for divorce on the other side. Right? Or it could be a dua for children, to get children, or to get good health, or maybe complete a degree. it's very easy for us to remember to make the dua for dunya, but we tend to forget the dua for akhirah. We tend to forget the dua for akhirah, and that's the best of the dua. The dua for akhirah, such as saying, Ya Allah, be content over them. Irba, have rida on them. Be content over them. Make them for salihin. And that was the dua of Prophet Ibrahim. The first thing says, رَبَّنَا إِنِّي أَسْكَنْتُ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ عِنْدَ بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ. And then he said, رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ. Ya Allah, that was the dua of Prophet Ibrahim. He said, Ya Allah, I left part of my family near عند بيتك المحرم, like near your house. Ya Allah, make them from those that do salah. That was the first thing that he was keen about. Make them do salah. Make them from those that remember salah. واجعل أفئدة من الناس تهوي إليهم. And let some people find them. Because he was afraid that they were going to die in the wilderness. Die in the middle of the desert. He didn't actually make the dua that somebody would find them first, but he made the dua that they would be people doing the salah, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? I find it very, very beautiful when you actually just left your child. You know, when you do a farewell or say goodbye to a family member, the first thing you're always worried about is that they would be safe, that they would be secure, all these different things, and you would be gathering all the different things for them, whether it's shampoo, nail clippers, whatever it is, passport, or making sure that they didn't forget anything. You rarely remember, your salat. Remember, here's how you're going to plan your salat. Or here's how you can pray in that, on the plane. Or here's your Quran to do dhikr on flight, for example. And this even though the dua is actually answered during flight or travel, whether it was by car or by plane or by ship. Dua is answered. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, when he used to break the fast, he used to say, ذهب الظمأ. Here, I wrote it as the Pakistanis would say, الظمأ. I'll tell you this joke. ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله.
Most of the time, we know the other dua. I don't know why we were taught that dua and not this one.
Which dua were you guys taught? That's okay. That's okay. But here's one thing, is that the hadith, Allahumma laka samtu alayka wa ala rizqika aftartu wa dhahab al-dhama'u or wa ala rizqika afatna. This hadith is actually mursal. You mentioned right here, it's actually da'if. A more authentic hadith is the one dhahab al-dhama'u وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله. Thirst is gone, the veins are moistened, and the reward is certain if Allah will. I love it, when you actually think of it. Thirst is gone, right? Thirst is gone. It's in order to remind you to focus on the changes that you went through, and how at one point you were feeling, in order to feel the blessing. The blessings of the water that you have, the food. The food that you have, how at one point you were striving for it, and now you actually have it. So now this dua is in order to remind the person to see the blessings and the changes that they actually went through.
Actually, the dua, I was reading, someone sent me that the dua is supposed to be, like, we say the dua first and then we break our fast. We say the dua.
You say the dua first.
And then break our fast. But
right.
Someone sent me that you just take a sip of water and whatever you want to eat and then say the dua. Because
so there are differences of opinions between scholars. The reason why, because the hadith says ذهب الظمأ. How's ذهب الظمأ when I didn't even drink?
Yeah.
Alright? That will meaning the thirst is gone. So it was not even gone yet. I didn't even drink.
Yeah.
Alright?
Yep.
Alright? Now, scholars have different opinions, whether it's the beginning. The sunnah, generally, the sunnah is that you would take a sip of water or eat dates, and then go make salat al-maghrib, and then come back. And that actually helps even in losing weight. I'll tell you, I lost 15 pounds during one Ramadan just by doing that. Because I'm hungry all day.
Yeah.
And you take a sip of water, you make your salah, and by the time you come back, you're not hungry anymore.
Yep, that's true.
You're not hungry anymore. Or you're probably just going to eat just a little bit. You're not, that's it.
Like scientifically, that when you eat, it goes into your intestine and then releases a hormone which goes through the blood back into your brain, message that the food is being taken. But it takes time, and then that will stimulate the satiety center, so that the hunger is gone. But they were saying that because we kept eating, so even we don't, so our satiety center doesn't even get that chance to tell you that you are almost full. So just when you take a sip of water or a date and then pray, there's a time, then that hormone will be released, go back to your brain, tell the center that satiety, the food has been, the body needs not too much food.
Right.
And then when you come back, that's why you are not feeling hungry.
Right.
This is the way we should eat.
Right. So that's the sunnah. That's the sunnah. Of course, the Prophet ﷺ, there's a hadith when we say refraining, because it's a training time, refraining from performing any actions that do not benefit the fasting. When we say refraining from the actions that don't benefit the fast, whether it's ghaiba, backbiting, or gossip, or stealing, or looking at haram things, all those things are supposed to be things that we abstain from in order to maintain the reason why Siyam was ordered, was why we were obligated to fast in the beginning. So the meaning of it, that's why the Prophet ﷺ actually said fasting is not from eating and drinking only, but also from vain speech and foul language. If one of you is being cursed or annoyed, he should say, I'm fasting, I'm fasting. Now, when you actually look at I'm fasting, the word to fast actually means to abstain. The word to fast in Arabic, the sawm, is to abstain. That's why Sayyidah Maryam, when she was asked, she was actually asked that she should be fasting from talking. She was supposed to be doing fasting, but from talking. Now the question is fasting from talking a sunnah? Fasting from talking is, in Islam, it's haram. The Sharia of the Prophet ﷺ, it's actually haram. But it was prescribed on Sayyidah Maryam, but we cannot necessarily say it was prescribed on her, let's do it too. And this is something very important, because when you say fasting, but you are fasting a certain fast by, that is a certain fast with talking, by not saying the bad things. For example, a man during the Prophet ﷺ was standing under the sun. And the Prophet ﷺ saw that the man, why is he under the sun? And they told him that he was doing some kind of a personal spirituality, personal ritual, in where he actually made an oath that he would not stand under any shade. What did he want to do? Well, he wanted to do somehow, or he actually thought very similar to a lot of Gnostic thinking, or even Gnostic religions, that in order for him to gain divine acceptance, that he should be somehow harming his body by sitting under the sun, getting thirsty, or whatever. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, order him to stand under the shade and do the kafara of the oath. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in need for him harming his body or harming himself. That's a total wrong understanding of spirituality, and that's why when we actually look at different things, including yoga, for example, they think it's like, okay, we're doing just a yoga, it's just that it's just an exercise. In Islam, it's not just an exercise. No, first of all, yoga was actually taken from the Buddhist way of spirituality, making it a prayer. So that's what it is. It used to be a prayer, and it still is. Yoga became famous in the West because a lot of religion generally in the West, Christianity especially in the West, became something that is not considered as a legit or as a considerable faith. It became common that many in the West will believe that Christianity is a myth. So in order to get some spirituality, because if you want to say, of course, if you want to say that Christianity is a myth, they don't necessarily think of Islam as an alternative, but it became an atheist alternative. The atheist alternative does understand the importance of spirituality, but spirituality, from the atheist term, that's where yoga came in. Buddhism is an atheist religion, but yoga was a type of spirituality for Eastern atheist religion. So it started coming in as a type of a ritual for an atheist Western. That yoga started coming in. Without us realizing, it became cool to practice yoga as a form of meditation, in order for the person to feel himself, feel the world, feel the creation, whatever you want to call it. And it became that culture that even the Muslim community doesn't realize that they're actually taking. So the question is, can I do yoga even if I don't necessarily want to believe that it's a ritual or a spirituality or any type of meditation? You can, but on a condition that you don't necessarily do it in the order that they do it in. And if there are any words, don't do the words, because it becomes part of the prayer. So as a Muslim, if you wanted to do that, you cannot do it in the order that they do it in.
What if we are following someone?
If you're following someone, it's very important to remember that, for example, the bending and certain things, it's a very sensitive issue, by the way, because it's a prayer.
It's a prayer.
It's a prayer. It originally is a prayer. It originally, in the Buddhist culture, if you want to say, a tradition, it's actually initially a prayer. So if you want to say that it's a prayer, it's exactly like a person studying to the praying to the cross. It's exactly the same thing.
Okay.
But most people would actually take out the prayer part and actually leave the movement. You've got the Muslim yoga, which is salah. You can do the yoga or the stretching of the muscles and all that, if only you don't necessarily follow it as the way that they would do it. That's the truth. It's a very, very dangerous issue.
That's true. I never thought.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous issue because many would here in the West it's becoming the trend.
Yeah,
exercise, and somehow it's like, oh, you're just stretching your body and stretching your muscles and your joints. In Islam, no. Wait a minute. Where's the origin of that tradition coming from? It's a religion.
Okay.
All right. The other part, of course, the Prophet ﷺ, for reading Quran during Ramadan, the Prophet ﷺ actually said the Prophet ﷺ was the most generous of people, but he would be his most generous during Ramadan. When he would meet the angel Jibreel alayhi salam, he would meet him every night and recite the Quran. When Jibreel alayhi salam used to be more generous than a fast rain. What happened was that during every Ramadan, Jibreel alayhi salam would come and he would review the Quran with the Prophet ﷺ. Now that's a ritual that we do as Muslims, to review the Quran and read the Quran during Ramadan. Imagine when you're actually reading Quran, that you're actually doing the same thing that the Prophet ﷺ used to do with Jibreel alayhi salam. One thing that I think is good is have the children. We used to do that at home as a young child. Have the children and the family all together read, because it may be hard for them to complete all the Quran depending on how young they are. So to actually say, okay, you read this juz'u and I'll read that juz'u, and let's all work to complete all the Quran in order to get that.
So is that okay?
That's okay as a training. As a training to teach children. As a training to actually teach children that, okay, we're going to do it as a family. Each one is going to read a juz in order to finish all the Quran. So we're in the beginning of Ramadan. We're going to do that at home, inshallah, to read each one, read juz, inshallah, to finish all the Quran, because once you finish all the Quran, you get a dua mustajab. Joining in worship as a family. The Prophet ﷺ would actually wake up his wives during the night and then remain apart from them and pray together. Praying together or making suhoor together is part of getting the religious support. Or doing thought together. All that actually enhances the relationship within the family and enhances the religious support. Salat al-Taraweeh. Salat al-Taraweeh, the word Taraweeh actually means to bring comfort. Salat al-Taraweeh, it's to bring comfort. And Salat al-Taraweeh is only done during Ramadan. Alright? And it's sunnah for both men and women. Salat al-Taraweeh, it's to be performed after Isha and before Witr. And they're prayed in sets of 2 rak'ahs. It's allowed to pray them after Witr, though this is not the best thing to do. They may be performed until the end of the night. This is very important to say. When a very common thing is that, let's say you enter the masjid. Or let's talk about gathering for Taraweeh first. For the gathering for Taraweeh, the Prophet ﷺ, there were reports that the Prophet ﷺ prayed Taraweeh as in Jama'ah. And there were reports that he prayed it at home. So you can pray taraweeh at home, and you can pray it jama'ah. Alright? Yet, the Prophet ﷺ was not constantly praying taraweeh in jama'ah because he was afraid that people would regard it as obligatory. You don't necessarily have to finish all the 8 rak'ah. You can pray 2 and leave. You can pray 4 and leave. You can pray 8 and leave. Alright? And this is something very important to remember. Because many think, oh, if I don't pray the 8, my taraweeh are not considered. The other thing is that you don't necessarily have to finish all the Quran during taraweeh. Alright? It's something very important. And for taraweeh, it's very important to remember that the Prophet ﷺ prayed taraweeh in congregation, but he discontinued that. Meaning that you can pray taraweeh at home. And especially for women, that becomes easier. Especially if there are children with you. You can actually pray taraweeh at home. I'll tell you guys a joke. It was hard for me to take all my children for taraweeh. So, in order for them to feel that they're in the masjid, I got like a big sajada, like a big carpet, and I lined up my children, and I told them we're going to pray together. Alright? It was Laylatul Qadr. So here we are, and I said, alright you guys, here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to be the imam, and you guys are going to be after me, and whenever I make the dua, you say Amin. Alright? I make the dua, you say Amin. So here it is, where Allahumma hdina fi man hadayt. We're making the dua. And then I started, just for them to feel the dua. I said, Ya Allah, let me enter Jannah. Let Azzuddin enter Jannah. Let Fatima enter Jannah. Let Hudayfa enter Jannah. Let my mom enter Jannah. I started naming the names so that they would, feel it. And then I moved on to another dua. And my son said, Mom, you forgot my uncle Umar during Salah. So to him, he was thinking like, okay, we have to make up, hurry before it closes, before the door closes. And Mom, نسيت خالة Umar. You forgot Uncle Umar. During Salah. They were hassling. It's like, no, wait a minute, you forgot somebody. Hurry, we've got to get them along. And subhanAllah, this actually does bring, I know it does help the child to go to the masjid, but it's not always easy to take the children to the masjid. It's not always easy to, maybe for the other day I went to take my children to Salat al-Taraweeh. I have an autistic child. I have an autistic child.
Oh, okay.
So my autistic child just couldn't go to the babysitting, didn't want to, and did not want to. He couldn't handle seeing people line up for the salah. And he just can't handle seeing it and hearing all that noise or all that. So just when I attempted, I had to leave. Couldn't even pray Salat al-Isha because he was going to be screaming. He was screaming already. Like, okay, I have to leave. Yet my other kids, they were really excited to pray Salat al-Taraweeh. So how do you actually combine both? Sometimes the situation doesn't help. SubhanAllah. Now, when we say praying Taraweeh at home, and even having their own imam, that would probably be helpful for women as well. Have women do their own Taraweeh, or children, women together, the woman herself. Can we hold the Quran during Taraweeh? It's best if you don't hold the Quran during Taraweeh, just so that you will not have things that are distracting your focus from Qur'an, from reading. But you can hold it if you're not going to be doing excessive outside of prayer movement.
So no difference in obligatory or sunnah prayer?
There is a difference. I'm here talking about taraweeh. During obligatory prayers, no, you cannot hold the prayer. It has to be from your own memory, and that's it. Not for non-obligatory prayers. So I'll tell you, like for example, even for the shuyukh, like in Mecca and the masajid too. Now you as a woman, you don't see it because the men are in front, but they would have a whole huge Quran right in front of them.
Okay. Taraweeh.
During Taraweeh. Yeah, he would be memorized. He would have memorized it, but they would still have a huge Quran in front of them whenever they want to peek, they can peek. But not for the obligatory prayer. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Number of rak'ahs for Taraweeh. The number of rak'ahs for Taraweeh. Scholars really had different opinions on the highest number. Can you say the highest number? Is it 36? Is it 8? Is it 11? And the reason why, there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, and the hadith is reported by Bukhari and Muslim, the Messenger of Allah, as Sayyidah Aysha said, that he was asked how he prayed during Ramadan. The Messenger of Allah said, the Messenger of Allah, Sayyidah Aysha said, never prayed more than 11 rak'ahs of qiyam, whether during Ramadan or any other time. He would pray 4, and don't ask me about how beautiful or how long they were. So he just prayed 4. Then he would pray 4. And then she would say, it's just long and beautiful. It's very inspiring to see how she was describing the salah that she was seeing the Prophet ﷺ in as beautiful and long. You don't necessarily get inspired by seeing a person pray. You would more get inspired by you yourself praying, not you seeing somebody pray. But it's saying that Aisha was inspired even by the way he was praying. She would watch him just pray, and she would just say, it's so beautiful the way he does it. Ya Allah. You imagine, you're watching the Prophet ﷺ actually praying right before your eyes. Imagine. To the point that she said, it's just beautiful. It's just something that I can't imagine. I can't even describe. And that's Sayyidah Aysha. I love it. I love it. I love it because I'll tell you, it's so, I know that generally, if a woman loves her husband, she would love seeing him, how he's doing and what he's doing, all that. But salah is normally not what you would necessarily focus on watching. But she was just taking a moment to just watch every single move. She was just taking a moment to get the inspiration and see him, how he bows down, makes sujood for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She's just watching him closely. And just imagine how Sayyidah Aisha, what a blessing. In her own very home, the Prophet of Allah actually prayed in her own very home, and loving her so much, and being around her. In fact, he would pray, and whenever he would make sujood, because the home is so small, he would have to carry and move or hold her leg and move it. فإذا سجد غمزني. Not غمزني meaning to twink or like a twinkle. No. غمزني meaning held my leg and moved. So it's, imagine your own very home. Your own very home. Filled with the light of the Prophet's life. It's people don't realize, those that, like the Shia, that would regard Sayyidah Aisha as an enemy to the Prophet ﷺ, don't realize that the Prophet ﷺ, when Amr ibn al-As was sitting with the Prophet ﷺ, and he asked the Prophet ﷺ, who do you love most? And the Prophet ﷺ just replied, Aisha. Said, no, I mean from the man. Said, her dad. It still is related to Sayyidah Aisha. And who is that? Was Amr ibn al-As actually saying, this is what happened. This is the Prophet ﷺ talking about Sayyidah Aisha. Just gotta love Sayyidah Aisha. Laylatul Qadr. For Laylatul Qadr, there's no better quote than إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ. That it was revealed, that the Quran was revealed during Laylatul Qadr. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ is a term that is used only for things that people cannot comprehend. Because you cannot comprehend Laylat al-Qadr, because Laylat al-Qadr, we only know about it. We only know about Laylat al-Qadr because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the one that mentioned Laylat al-Qadr. Laylat al-Qadr. Laylat al-Qadr was mentioned, and its importance were mentioned in the Quran itself. That the Quran was revealed during Laylat al-Qadr. Laylat al-Qadr khayrun min alf shahr. That it's better than 1,000 nights or 1,000 months. 1,000 months. تنزل الملائكة والروح فيه. On that day, the angels and the Ruh meaning Jibreel alayhi salam, they would actually come down for Laylat al-Qadr. بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهِمْ, with the order of their Lord. بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر. That it's a peaceful night until dawn. There's no other way to describe a night even more beautiful than that. Because you can say every single night, you can describe any night, night of graduation, wedding night, party night, all the different things. You would be, even if you had people around you, there's no better visitors than the minute. No better visitors than the minute. No one will say, تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها. In one of the years, I was young, a teenager. My sister, we wanted to go to Al-Aqsa, but my dad didn't allow us. So I got lazy to stay up all night and make dua. I went to sleep. My sister, she would wake me up and say, get up and make dua. Today is a special night. You're going to miss out on this special night. I was too lazy to get up. I went to sleep. But she stayed up all night and made the dua and continued making dua all night. On that day, wallahi, I dreamt that the malaika knocked at our door and they said that somebody made the dua in this house and Allah answered it. And it definitely wasn't me. My sister was the only one that was making dua in that. I still remember it till this day. Malaika knocked at the door and said, somebody in this house made a dua and the dua is answered. I still remember it until this day, and I still regret for not making dua during that day. And subhanAllah, it's very important to support one another, and sometimes going to the masjid also brings that support. When you're actually around all these people, and it brings, although definitely home has more sincerity, but the lights, the people, all that will wake you up. But at home, you're more likely to sleep.
That we used to do in groups, and it's so lovely. Feels, I don't know.
There are.
There are groups?
There are. Every masjid has. There are groups. I wish I can go. I haven't been going as much for taraweeh because of my son and my children. It would be very hard. But in the Masjid al-Aqsa, I have not witnessed any more beautiful taraweeh than a taraweeh in the Masjid al-Aqsa. That's the most beautiful. I lived in Masjid al-Aqsa for 14 years. It's the most beautiful thing. For taraweeh during Masjid al-Aqsa, people are gathering there, and you're under the sky. The weather is great. You're under the sky, and you're making taraweeh, and people are gathering their blankets and all that. And we were lucky that we lived near Masjid al-Aqsa. Now the bathrooms to make wudu is more than hard, but that's why we had the privilege to actually go to our house, make wudu, and come back. Go to our house, eat, and come back for more salah. In fact, we would hear it from our own home. We would hear the salat al-taraweeh, and we would hear the jama'ah from our own home. We would hear it from our own home. Yeah, we still have a home there. Yeah, we still have a home there. Yeah, my family still has their house there, right next to Masjid al-Aqsa. Nothing more beautiful, nothing more inspiring. I think the most important thing that affected my own upbringing was really the time when we were living next to Masjid al-Aqsa. It was the most special moment. The most special moment. Where we would actually have the graves of the Sahaba, or things that we passed by every time we needed to go to school, because that was the route to school. The grave of Ubadah ibn Samit, Shaddad ibn Aus, the schools of many of the most important figures in Islamic history, Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi. My school was at one point in Madrasat al-Kazim. My school, the school that I went to, was called the Madrasat al-Kaziyya back then, during the time of the Malik. And that school was considered a school that taught fiqh, that taught aqid, that taught those subjects. You cannot not get inspired. You can't. Every single corner, all those houses around, every single corner is reminding you of the Salihin, is reminding you of ulama, is reminding you. The street that I used to live on was called the street of Al-Hakari. Al-Hakari. The street that I used to live on is called the street of Al-Hakari. Al-Hakari was one of the leaders, the Kurdish leaders, that came with Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi. You cannot detach yourself from all those inspiring things. If you detach yourself from those inspiring things, then surely you are the most person to be at loss, and you're the most person to lose the biggest privilege. It's kind of like having $1 million and still feeling poor. Nothing more beautiful than that. For Laylatul Qadr, what do we do during Laylatul Qadr? Dhikr. Dua. Dhikr can be Alhamdulillah, Subhanallah, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. Dua. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Ya Allah, bring us good in this dunya and bring us good in the akhirah, and keep hellfire away from us. That's the dua that the Prophet ﷺ taught us, Sayyidah Aysha. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. And the Prophet ﷺ actually said, whoever spends the night of Laylatul Qadr in prayer, that is, in prayer for Salat al-Taraweeh, out of faith. What is out of faith? You're doing it because you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in the hope of reward, will be forgiven his previous sins. His sins will be forgiven. Previous sins, of course, unless we're talking about the major sins. Now, which night is Laylatul Qadr? Scholars had different opinions on which night. Some said that it was the 21st, 23rd. Another said it was the 25th. Another said it was the 29th. But most scholars vouched for 27th because of hadith. And this is a very strong opinion, the 27th night. What to do on Laylatul Qadr, on the night of Al-Qadr? Stay up all night. Staying up all night, and as a mother, stay up all night even if the children are not making dua and salah and etc. Let them stay up all night. Don't give them iPads and iPhones. Don't give them iPads and iPhones. Let them stay up to at least remember, and at least be part of those that hear the dhikr. One of the ulama, Sayyid Abu Dawood Sajistani, used to say that he would do extra salah so that his child would see him doing extra salah so he can take him as an example. And he would do extra dhikr so his child would see. Those are things that will last in their memory. To keep in their memory that we were in the masjid, we were making dua, people were making dhikr at these things. Even if they don't necessarily participate, that will bring an encouragement to it. Even if they don't necessarily do the dua, they will hear how to make the dua and they will see it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will actually, inshallah, bring the blessings to them when they actually join in the dua. The dhikr, let them learn how to do it for the children, so that they won't be shy to actually say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. Let them learn. Take the moment to learn. Take the moment to do it in order to make the dhikr even if you do it as for the children, in order to train them. Not as a ritual, but in order to train the children. All right, children, we're going to say Subhanallah 30 times or 33 times. Let's do it. Subhanallah, 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 in order to train them. And children, they get encouraged when they're doing it together than actually doing it in separate. And then perfect. You do Subhanallah 33 times, I'll give you a candy for that. I'll make you a little party during Eid. Let them stay up all night, even if they're not going to pray. By letting them stay up all night, take away the iPads, take away the iPhones, so that they would be hearing you and seeing you doing the dhikr, that moment of dhikr. But don't make it just on that night where you take out the iPhones and iPads. Take those out on most of the days in order to help them see the world around them. In order to help them see the world around them. I'm somebody that's very against iPads and iPhones and children using these things. The Sayyidah Aisha actually asked the Prophet said, if Laylatul Qadr comes, what do you want me to say? He said, say, Allahumma innaka afuwun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. Ya Allah, you are all forgiving and you love forgiveness, forgive me. That's it. Allahumma innaka afuwun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. That's it. I remember seeing in al-Masjid al-Aqsa women that are not necessarily educated, simple women. But I used to see that this is the only thing that they would know how to say. Allahumma innaka afuwun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. Didn't memorize all those long du'as and all those long ayat. No, that's it. I remember even one time I was in the Masjid al-Aqsa and a lady sitting in the corner all by herself. And I approached and I actually thought that she was probably, mental illness or something. And I noticed that she was just saying, Allahumma innaka afuwun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. Allahumma innaka afuwun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. When you actually see that, it just takes you to think, is she, out of all the people in the masjid, is she probably the only one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered her dua? She's just sitting in the corner, not saying nothing, just alone, making her dua just with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It used to make me cry, still does, to actually see that a lot of times we tend to pay attention to the people on the spotlight, not the people that are on the spotlight. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has His spotlight. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has His spotlight. And that's what matters. It's not the people's spotlight that matters. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us from His spotlight. And that's the spotlight you want. You want the divine spotlight. Everybody, you could have all the lights on, so many people. But there could be a special light coming down from the sky on a person that people don't see. And that would be a person probably sitting in the corner, and you thought you're on the spotlight. Yeah, that's scary, right? I find it very scary. Very scary. Am I the person with the spotlight? Or in the eyes of people, I'm the person on the spotlight? But is that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is? Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala see the person that has all the spotlight? Or is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seeing somebody's spotlight? Sitting on a corner, probably raggy clothes, somebody that's probably just sitting down, nobody pays attention to, doesn't have high degrees, doesn't have lots of money. People would just regard her that, oh, she's nothing. And she'd be a person that would die. I find it scary. I'tikaf. What is i'tikaf? I'tikaf means to stick to something. To stick to something, whether good or bad, and to block out everything else. You're taking a moment only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're blocking everything out. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I love how التبليغ, they would actually go to the masjid, bring their meals, the little tents, and put it in the masjid, and each one having their little tent, and doing their qira'at Quran. لا بأس. It's not wrong. It helps focus. It helps them. I loved it. When I saw that they were doing that, I was like, what a beautiful hasan. What a beautiful bid'ah. The question is there such a thing as a bid'ah hasana and a bid'ah sayyah? Or are all bid'ahs wrong? Generally, all bid'ah, every innovation is haram. But the bid'ah hasana, which is what Al-Izz ibn Abd al-Salam, Al-Izz ibn Abd al-Salam, who was a scholar during the Mamani, Al-Izz ibn Abd al-Salam regarded that some things are bid'ah hasana if they had an origin in the Sunnah. Like, for example, did the Sahaba know tajweed? They read the Quran with tajweed, but they don't necessarily know the ruling as classified today. They didn't know the rulings as classified today. Today we learned, later the Muslims learned how to classify things to make it easy for the people to understand. Classified it as like canonized it. Does that make canonizing tajweed or canonizing grammar, Arabic grammar, nahu, does that make it a bid'ah? It makes it a bid'ah hasana. Because it's to help. Because مَا لَا يَتِمُّ الْوَاجِبُ إِلَّا بِهِ فَهُوَ وَاجِبٌ. What is that? If something is obligatory to do, whatever makes it obligatory to do becomes obligatory. For example, it's obligatory to protect your awrah. Therefore, building a house or having a home is obligatory. If you couldn't afford it, that's a difference. Alright, covering the awrah. And I'm here just looking at the means. The means that lead to an obligation, the means are obligatory as the obligation itself. Now, when the person, for example, is doing i'tikaf, they're supposed to be, for their i'tikaf, they're supposed to be focusing and closing out the world around them. Just doing their dhikr, their dua, their salah, their siyam, that's it. Not chit-chatting with other people. even if they weren't chatting about something haram. You're there specifically for dua, for spirituality, for a ritual. You can only do dhikr, istighfar, salah, siyam, and tasbih. The only thing you can do. Or read Quran, or dua. Those are the only 7 things you can do. Nothing else. You can't talk about an important matter for a long time. That's the only thing you could do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when even talked about, even for people that are doing i'tikaf. I'tikaf, is it obligatory on every single person? It's fard kifaya, meaning that we have to have a certain number of people in the Muslim community doing i'tikaf. The certain number of people that are doing i'tikaf, must be enough number looking at the masjid itself and the number of people that are there. So the i'tikaf itself, it's a ibadah where you're only doing it for dhikr and the following that I mentioned, and even leaving halal things. Like what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تُبَاشِرُهُنَّ وَأَنْتُمْ عَاكِفُونَ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. And do not be with your wives, that is intimate with your wives, when you're doing i'tikaf. But this is the wife. Is it halal or not? Yes, it is. But during i'tikaf it becomes something you cannot do. So even halal things, if you are actually doing it intention for i'tikaf, you cannot do. It will break your i'tikaf if you do it. You're going to take a small meal. You're going to take out all those entertaining things. You're not going to chit chat with people. You're going to be in i'tikaf is more of a moment on your own. Not with people, on your own. You can pray jama'ah, but you're on your own. It's just for dhikr. The i'tikaf, the Prophet ﷺ, in the Hadith Qudusi, the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, my servant draws not near to me with anything more loved by me than the religious duties I have enjoyed upon him. My servant continues to draw near to me with supererogatory works, so that I shall love him. When I love him, I am his hearing, with which what he hears with. I am his seeing, with what he sees with. His hands, with which he strikes, and his foot, with which he walks. Were to ask something of me, I would surely give it to him. And were he to ask me for refuge, I would surely grant him. Now when we look at i'tikaf, it's a moment in order to get that spirituality. This is talking about spirituality. There's nothing and there's no way then to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than with ibadah and dhikr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ, and remember me and I will remember you. I'tikaf is a day for dhikr. It's a day for dhikr. I'tikaf, it's permissible to do it anytime. It's not necessarily only during Ramadan. Yet the best times, so you can do i'tikaf at other days other than Ramadan. The best times to do i'tikaf is in Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ practiced i'tikaf during Shawwal in some years as well, and practiced i'tikaf during Ramadan as well. Okay. Now, i'tikaf, it's sunnah to do, but it would be obligatory if we don't have a good number of people doing i'tikaf in the society. We have to have a group of people doing i'tikaf. How long should the i'tikaf be for? I'tikaf can be as long as the person's oath stated, if the person has an oath. Meaning said that, Wallahi, or by Allah, I will be doing i'tikaf the last 10 days of Ramadan. For example, if that's how long they said they were going to do i'tikaf, that's how long they should do it. But if the person decided that they wanted to do i'tikaf just for Saturday and Sunday because that's when they're off work, or Saturday, Friday and Saturday, because Sunday they would go to work for Monday, they can do that. They can only do i'tikaf for 2 days, that's fine. They can only do i'tikaf for 3 days. Do as much as you can. There's no limit, and the person gets rewarded for the time they spent in the masjid. Who can do i'tikaf? Any Muslim that is pure from sexual or menstrual postpartum impurities and is in the complete state of mind. They don't have to be fasting for i'tikaf. And for i'tikaf, of course, any person that's doing i'tikaf, the only reason why they could leave the masjid, probably grab some food, or probably take a shower, that's the only thing. But not more. Barely leaving. Unless they're finished with their i'tikaf. Let's say they decided that they wanted to do 1 day of i'tikaf, they can do 1 day, they can do 2, they can do 3. The Prophet ﷺ used to do i'tikaf. What are we not to do during i'tikaf? Engage in worldly matters. Leave the masjid except for a necessary reason. Engage in worldly talk. Engage in any intimate relations with a spouse. This includes anything that may lead to it, even if it's foreplay. Where is it done? I'tikaf is done at the masjid. That's the only place that you can do i'tikaf. Scholars had different opinions on the woman, on whether she could do it at home. The Madhab Hanafi regarded that women can do i'tikaf in her own masjid. What do you mean in her own masjid? Like, let's say in her own house, she has one designated area for salah. She can do i'tikaf there. They said she can do i'tikaf there. Imam Malik regarded that you cannot do i'tikaf at the home, but like the idea that a woman would do i'tikaf at home. The only time that women can do i'tikaf in the local masjid is if during that i'tikaf she's got a designated area where she would not be seen. You're going to take a short nap at night, so you're going to be lying down where you're not going to be seen by men. So there's like a curtain or something, so that would help the sisters maintain their i'tikaf without being a fitna, or bringing fitna, or them being in a place of fitna. Alright? So she must have the following conditions. Number 1, her husband's permission. Right? Her husband's permission to do i'tikaf. Free from menstrual and postpartum bleeding. Let's say she was doing i'tikaf and all of a sudden she got her period. She leaves the masjid and her i'tikaf is done. Go to the masjid, or Hanafi madhab said her home's masjid can be there. Not engage in intimacy with her husband if she's doing i'tikaf. Al-Bukhari and Muslim narrated from Sayyidah Aysha that the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, that the Prophet ﷺ used to spend last 10 days of Ramadan in i'tikaf until he passed away. Then his wives observed i'tikaf after he died. In the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ, whenever it was the last 10 days, shadda mi'zarahu, that he would shadda mi'zarahu, like hasten his belt, in order for his wives to understand that there is no intimacy, because he's doing i'tikaf. For the husband's permission, let me just comment on that. The husband's permission generally whether it's for i'tikaf or any sunnah action, the husband's permission is important. But the husband must not take advantage of his role that she's asking him to do this sunnah. There are many men that may be over jealous. No, or let me say over selfish. The wives also need a moment to do i'tikaf or ibadah. Unless there was a reason, like a good reason, it's hard, it's too crowded, the children, they might, they're going to disturb others, etc. That's a valid reason. Alright? But there are many that don't actually have a valid reason. It's just that he's just selfish. Alright? Is something like, well, there's no designated area for women, a valid reason or not? Well, it's very important that women also have their voices be heard in the masjid and say, we need a designated area. At least, if you cannot provide a designated area, at least put us a curtain to know where we end and where it separates, like a small area for us. What are the valid reasons that a woman can leave her place for i'tikaf? Menstruation, postpartum, istihara is not included, waiting period after divorce or becoming widowed. Why? Let's say her husband died. She can leave i'tikaf because she's supposed to be doing the waiting period at home. Right? She's supposed to be doing the waiting period at home. Committing an i'tikaf breaker by mistake or forgetting. Majority of the scholars said it breaks their i'tikaf if the person forgot or if they did by mistake. Let's just suppose they forgot that they were in i'tikaf. All of a sudden it happens. They forgot that they were in i'tikaf. Somebody calls them up and they say, yeah, okay, I'm on my way. They forgot that, wait a minute, I thought you said you wanted to i'tikaf. It happens. Some people they just get carried away right away. Alright? It will break their i'tikaf because remember what breaks i'tikaf? Leaving the masjid, intimacy, what else? Or doing worldly matters. Those things break the i'tikaf. So let's say any of those things the person committed, then that breaks their i'tikaf. But what if they did it forgetting that they were in i'tikaf, or they did it by mistake? Number one, Shafi'i and Zahiri have said it doesn't break their i'tikaf for the generalization of the hadith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so they forgot. This hadith, which we actually said before, the hadith, إن الله تجاوز لي عن أمتي الخطأ والنسيان وما استكبروا عليه, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven my nation الخطأ by things that they do by mistake, by forgetting, or by force. Alright? Now, some scholars said this includes i'tikaf, other scholars said that no, just like when we talked about siyam. What happens if someone breaks their i'tikaf? Allah will reward them the amount that they did i'tikaf for. But if it's an obligatory i'tikaf, they would have to make up. If it's an obligatory i'tikaf. What is obligatory i'tikaf? The person himself saying, by Allah, I'm going to do i'tikaf. Yep, they're the ones that actually did it. What is done during i'tikaf? Salah, dua, reading Quran, tasbih, subhanallah, 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 Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, making dua. Zakat al-Fitr. For Zakat al-Fitr, it's the amount that you pay for sadaqah or zakah after Ramadan. It's paid on behalf of every single person that lives in the home, including unborn children. Including unborn children. And it's obligatory on every single Muslim, and including unborn children. Alright? Zakat al-Fitr is different from one place to another. Why? Because it depends on their income. Alright? The Prophet ﷺ actually said, for the people that in order to join in Zakat al-Fitr, he said it would be sa' of dates, sa' of barley upon every Muslim, slave and free, male and female, young and old. And he commanded that it be paid before the people went to pray. It can be sent to other countries. Zakat al-Fitr can be sent to other countries. And scholars differed on whether it has to be food or it can be value. The Hanafi madhab regarded that it can be the value, and not necessarily the food itself. Because the Prophet ﷺ was talking about sa' min tamr, sa' min sha'ir. It's like saying, this much. But remember, this much, these things change throughout history. What used to be this much is not this much anymore. What used to be this much, right now we weigh it based on its weight, not its mass or height. Alright? Zakat al-Fitr becomes obligatory when the sun sets on the last day of Ramadan and must be paid before Eid prayer. Zakat al-Fitr must be paid before Eid prayer. Alright, the latest it may be given is at Eid. And that's it for. So if you have any questions.